You should not be cooking dinner if you're on your period. Periods are dirty. You should not be exercising when you're on your period. Get out of the pool. You're not supposed to be swimming when you're on your period. Sounds familiar? Period myths. There are a lot of them. On this episode of Everyday Period, we're going to be talking about the myths and telling you the facts to debunk them. Because the truth is, some of them just don't make no sense. Welcome to Everyday Period. Let's normalize the talk, celebrate the experience, and make periods something we're proud to discuss. Welcome to the conversation. I want to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments about the topic, or if you have a question about reproductive health generally, send us an email at embraceherflow@gmail.com. You can also like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Period TV. And just remember, we are here for you. Everyday Period is brought to you by Her Flow Foundation, empowering Jamaicans one flow at a time. Everyday Period is an AP1 production. Follow Her Flow on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Her Flow Foundation, and visit our website at embraceherflow.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. Everyday Period takes out the mystery, the taboo, and awkwardness from reproductive health and introduces conversations to create greater understanding. Now listen, this is all about period myths. You know them, you've heard about them, and we're going to be debunking some of them because the truth is, some of them are plain untrue, some of them can be dangerous if you follow them, and we're going to tell you the real facts so that you can be informed as you navigate your period. Welcome to Everyday Period. The information shared on Everyday Period is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions or concerns you may have regarding your health or medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of something you heard on this show. Your health is unique, and only a medical professional can provide personalized guidance. Let's talk period myths. I'm just gonna jump right into it. You can't get pregnant while you're on your period. That is very much a myth. And I'm gonna tell you why. Did you know that the sperm can live inside of the woman's body up to 5 days after ejaculation? Yes. So you could do the deed on Monday, and if your period starts on Wednesday, the sperm is still there. And you can still have an egg enter the space, and that egg can become fertilized. Getting pregnant while you're on your period is not something that's very common, but it's certainly very much possible. Okay? So do not dismiss it completely. And I know some of you are thinking, no, sir, but what's the point? Don't your period come after you don't have a pregnancy? Like, what kind of voodoo is this? That's the miracle of the body. These things can happen. Life will find a way. That is why you want to ensure that if you're not interested in getting pregnant, don't shoot at the club. That's a statement that I learned online from one of these bloggers. They call it ejaculate inside of the vagina, shooting at the club. So if you know you don't want to have any babies, practice the different contraceptive methods to prevent having sperm inside of the vagina that can still cause pregnancy even when the period is happening. Remember that. All right, let me get you to another myth. Period always lasts 5 to 7 days and follow a 28-day cycle. This is clearly a myth. We know that even though the average cycle is 28 days long, there are cycles that can last longer than 28 days and even a little shorter than 28 days. It's really an average, okay? And so if you don't have a 28-day cycle, there's nothing wrong. You could have a 32-day cycle. You could have as much as a 35-day cycle. And what that means is that every time your period starts, is the beginning of your cycle, and then you go for 28 days, and the 29th day, your period will start again if you have a 28-day cycle. But for some people, that can extend beyond 28 days. Also, the length of the time that you actually bleed, that you menstruate, can be longer than 7 days. Some people bleed 3 days, some people bleed even 9 days. But you really have to monitor that, because if you find yourself bleeding longer than 9 days, or if you're bleeding heavily over those 9 days, then that might be an indication that something more is going on. So track that and pay attention to it and report to your medical professional if you need to. But everybody does not necessarily have the same length of a cycle, all right? So even though the average is 5 to 7, that can fluctuate. And it also depends on what's going on in your life at the time, because if you're just exercising, you're just starting the gym, and you're doing a lot of rigorous exercising, you're going to realize that your cycle changes. If you find yourself in stressful situation, that can also affect your cycle. If you are an athlete, for example, elite athletes, whenever they're training for competition, their periods act very differently than it does on regular days. So it depends on what's going on in your life as well. So there's no such thing as a period that is exactly the same all the time, not even in the same body, trust me. Sometimes I have 2-day periods, sometimes I have 4-day periods. Sometimes my period is nice and calm and comes through and everything is good. And some days I just feel like my body will fight against me. Same body, very different experiences. So don't expect your period to be the same all the time, all right? So pay attention to that. Swimming while on your period is unsafe. Now, I don't need to tell you why this don't make no sense, because y'all know how it is. You're getting ready to go on your vacation, you go to the store and you buy the greatest bikini you see, and your body ready, and you say, yes, me and the pool and a nice drink with an umbrella in it, vacation, and your period say, me too. You're going to cancel your vacation? I think not. Bring the period on the vacation, put on your bikini same way, put on your menstrual product that you can use while you're wearing your bikini, you know, there are options. And have yourself a nice time. Of course you can swim while you're on your period. Come on. Make sure that you have all the tools that you need, because you know that you need to be prepared while you're at the poolside and you're having fun in your bikini while you have your period. But listen, don't make your period stop you from having a good time. You hear? Periods don't stop for swimming. I know that's right. All right, I'm going to get to this myth, but let me just put a disclaimer out there right now for my Christian colleagues. I know y'all going to come for me, but I don't afraid of honor, so bring your Bible and come. A lot of persons, when they read the Bible and they read about reproductive health, specifically periods, the word unclean shows up a lot. And I'm challenging that with this myth, because one of the reasons why they say this myth is fact is because they think that menstrual blood is unclean and dirty and impure. Now listen, whatever you believe in your religion, you are free to go ahead and do so. But when it comes to our bodies, if we are looking at something as natural and as necessary as period and thinking about it in such a negative light, what do you actually think about the body that has to facilitate this particular function? Do you realize that without periods, we wouldn't exist? Do you realize that period is necessary for us to reproduce? So if we look at this very necessary natural function and describe it as dirty and unclean, what are we saying about ourselves? Let that marinate for a moment. So I push back fully on the notion that periods are impure or unclean. I understand that it can feel a little murky for some persons, and it's a little icky sometimes. And boy, sometimes when you take a look at the things that are coming outside of your body, you really have to get concerned. However, that's just a part of the natural process. And the truth is, every single thing that comes out of the human body, if left to its own devices, gets smelly at some point. Trust me, we are disgusting beings walking up and down. But if we are just going to put that particular judgment on periods, then why? Why is it just that period is unclean? Have you seen what can come out of noses? Have you ever seen what babies do when left unsupervised? Seriously, they're brand new. Why are they so stinky? My point is, periods is not inherently unclean. Myth! Moving on to the other myth. Periods are always painful. Deal with it. Incorrect. If you are having chronically painful periods, if every single time your menstruation come around you can't even function, you can't leave the house, that is an indication that you probably have something else going on in your body that requires some sort of medical intervention. Your periods are not supposed to be painful. Healthy periods are not painful periods. So if you are experiencing chronic pain with your periods, go and seek help. It is possible for you to be treated, and it is possible for you to live without the pain. Do not just accept that just because you're a woman, just because you have a period, you have to deal with pain. That is just not the case. All right? You're talking to somebody who used to have very, very painful periods, and I made some changes in my life, and right now my periods are completely symptom-free. So there are things that you can do to help yourself not have to go through pain. But if you just accept the pain, then you won't get the treatment that you need. All right? So do not just accept that periods are painful. That is just not the case. And if you are experiencing pain with your period, especially pain that stops you from functioning, please consult your medical professional. All right? Oh, well, you know how I feel about this, so this is clearly a myth. You should not exercise while you're on your period. Now, I know some of us don't feel like exercising while we're on your period, but you definitely should exercise. Exercise every chance you get. Even if you don't feel like it, move your body anyway. One of the best things you can do to manage your period, especially if you have painful periods, is move. It is so necessary for the condition of your muscles, as well as it will help you to manage the pain, and it will also help you to balance the hormones, and really you feel much better after you're through anyway. So there's a lot of upside to exercise. So move your body. Move it, move it, move it. Even when you don't feel like it, start. You're gonna get better, you're gonna feel better, and you're gonna get better, and you're gonna have more energy. So definitely exercise while you're on your period, even if you don't feel like it. Myth debunked. All right, there are lots of other period myths that we could talk about, but I think I'm gonna leave it there because we shared a lot of information about the period myths that we have here. But I think it is so important that we dispel this bonus myth. Men are not supposed to know about period. Well, we already proved that that's foolishness. All right? Include men in conversation about period. Tell them what you need. Tell them how they can support you. Show them the products. Include them in the conversation. Let them understand what is happening, because with their help, we can get to the point where periods are not such a taboo topic, and we can definitely live in a society where it is not a bad thing if you have a simple accident when you have your period. That sound good to you? All right. Period myths debunked. Hey, everyday period fam. If you're loving these real unfiltered conversations about reproductive health, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Join the movement by liking, sharing, or dropping your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. Let's keep breaking the stigma and spreading the knowledge. Periods don't stop, and neither do we. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Herflow Foundation. So why is it important for us to debunk period myth? It is important because it helps us to promote both our physical and our mental health. If we do not challenge these myths, they can cause us to make decisions and choices that can leave us in a state of disappointment or even ill health. Because if we do not step forward and get the help when we need it, it is going to be very dangerous for us in the long run. Lots of people suffering from infertility issues and even issues with, functioning, and their health overall has deteriorated because they have suffered in silence. And we don't want that to happen anymore. So if you have some sort of belief that is centered around a period myth, challenge that. Ask questions, go out there, do your research, because at the end of the day, you don't want to find yourself in a position where you have an illness that could have been treated, but it ended up being a lifelong issue that you had to deal with simply because you believed in a myth. So let's talk about some of the health consequences that can come from believing dangerous period myths. The first thing is sometimes they can cause misdiagnosing of some serious health conditions. Now, for the persons who have endometriosis, for example, you can testify to this people who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, whatever reproductive health issue that you have, you know what it is like to be misdiagnosed. For some of us, it takes up to 7 years before we're diagnosed with the actual condition that we have. And that's the reason why it is important for you to push back, to ask questions, to do the research, to figure out what is happening with you, and don't just accept the pain. If you believe, for example, that periods are supposed to be painful, then you're just going to be living in pain. Who wants that? Why would you just live in pain when you can find out what is happening with you, get the treatment, and continue to live an even happier, more fulfilled, pain-free life? So one of the things that we really must do is to just not accept that pain is a part of being woman. Actually heard somebody say that, foolishness, because once you're feeling pain, that's an indication that something is wrong. Go and find out what it is, ask questions, and if your doctor don't know, find another doctor. If that doctor don't know, find another doctor. Trust me, somebody out there know where you have and can help you. Go and go find them. All right? Another thing that we have to think about is that if we continue to believe in some dangerous myths, it limits our access to healthcare. It limits our ability to get the help that we need. And what I mean by that, so if you are just over here saying that, all right, my period is supposed to be a 28-day cycle, and you know, I just believe that that is what it is, and you have a cycle that is 31 days long, and you just believe that, no, I need to do something to get it back to 28 days. You won't even entertain that it's possible that your period can just be 31 days long, and that's perfectly fine, because not every period is supposed to be 28 days. So when you have a limiting belief, it also limits your access for you to get the help, for you to go seek the help that you might need, right? So it's important for you to just challenge myths when you hear them, right? Period stigma is a massive, massive issue that we have in this country and in lots of other countries around the world. And period stigma stops a lot of people from asking for assistance. Period stigma drives things like period poverty. And so you have a lot of people who are just in the state where they cannot even ask the question. In my work, when I do outreach to different spaces, sometimes even when I go into some schools and we're donating menstrual products to the schools and we're handing out products to the girls, they don't want to take the products because they don't want nobody to see them I take the products. And I'm like, listen, the jig is up, the secret is out. Everybody knows that we have periods. What's the purpose of the secret? But because of stigma, we don't even want to admit that this natural, normal process that happens to our bodies every single month is actually something that we are experiencing. Crazy. So the stigma has to stop. The stigma is such a big roadblock to us getting anywhere, especially when it comes to period equity and ensuring that everybody have access to dignified periods. All right? So once we continue to promote period stigma, here's some of the things that we do to promote period stigma. I'm still meeting men who say to me, them woman can't cook no food in them house while end up on them period. Really, sir? Do you eat out? Do you go to restaurants? Do you ask the restaurant if the chef is on her period? Oh, in your world, women are not chefs. Uh-oh, poor thing. Look at you. You know how much period food you eat? Abe, my point is, stigma just harms all of us. Stop it, right? You still have people who say things like women who are on them period are supposed to be in the church. They're not supposed to be going into the house of God. Really? I bet if you look around in the church right now, there are several women sitting in the pews currently bleeding. I suggest you take it to the Lord in prayer. My point is, we are going to have to stop period stigma, and when we continue to push these period myths, it only drives that particular effort, and we just need to cut it out. Let me see. I have my clipboard. Another consequence of period myth is period poverty. I spoke about it before. As long as we continue to believe that certain things are hush-hush and we're keeping secret, you know how many people are walking up and down with tissue in their underwear because they cannot afford menstrual products and they cannot ask for help. They cannot open their mouths and come to her flow and say, I need help, because they are so ashamed. because of the self-imposed shame that they put upon themselves. And a big part of that is because of some of these myths that we continue to share. Make we stop it now. So something as simple as period poverty, and it is my personal belief that menstrual products should be free and accessible to every single human being who needs it. And I want to start right here in Jamaica. That is something that I'm personally working towards fixing. But I really want us to understand the sort of indignity that an individual goes through whenever they have to deal with period poverty. It's really, really diminishing to the person and makes them feel less than. Who wants to feel like that? So whatever you can do to help, go ahead and do it. And the last point I want to talk about when it relates to the health impact is the psychological issue. Now listen, I've been doing work in schools where period poverty is concerned in Jamaica for almost 9 years. And I'm going to tell you this straight up. Some of the reports that we get back from the teachers, from the guidance counselors, talks about how the girls feel about themselves. They talk about the grades, they talk about all of those measurable things, but the thing that they talk about that I'm most proud of is the fact that they can tell me that the girl no longer has behavioral issue in class. She's no longer shy, she's no longer withdrawn, she's outspoken, she's confident, she's moving with an air of achievement and accomplishment. Do you know what that means? It means by just simply making menstrual products available, we have improved the psychological outlook for Jamaican children. That is amazing, and that's the reason why we have to continue to do this work, right? So psychological impact of having these myths. When you tell a girl that she cannot swim while she's on her period, we're stopping her from becoming the next Olympic swimmer. Why would we do that? When you tell a girl she cannot exercise when she's on her period, suppose them to tell that to Shelly-Ann Fraser Price and she didn't believe it. You think so Shelly-Ann don't run when she's on her period? Look at you. You know much medal she probably win while she bleeding? My point is, let us stop pulling from these myths and focus on the fact. And let us push each other through and ensure that we give the support and we have normal conversations around periods so that we can expand the knowledge base so that these myths can lose all of the teeth and muscle that they have. All right? And the impact that it has on our mental health is clear. If we are able to speak openly about periods, then the stigma will go away and we will continue to grow as a people and we will continue to ensure that Jamaicans have access to dignified periods, which will build their self-esteem and their confidence and make us better as a people overall. All right? One of the health consequences that we really have to make sure that we remember when we're talking about myths is how these myths affect our ability to talk to our healthcare professionals. You know how many women are feeling some real pain and just are afraid to talk to their doctors about it? Some of the times they're afraid to talk to their doctors because sometimes doctors don't have a problem. You make it difficult for your patient to level with you on some level because you're well educated, you know certain information that they don't know and they probably don't have the language to articulate. And so sometimes you really have to allow yourself to get onto their level so that they can understand what you're saying to them and come to you and really tell you what is happening with them. There are women who have STD symptoms and they are afraid to tell their doctors because of what the doctor will say, the shame around it. All right? Even something as simple as discharge. The color of your discharge can just be because you have old blood in your body, you know. Sometimes you might have some brown discharge and you go to your doctor and you have brown discharge and you wash out and you douche and you do all these kind of things because you don't want the doctor to see that you have brown discharge. Listen, them see it already. There's nothing you way to go to the doctor with them don't see it. Because remember, you know, a lot of people go to the doctor with them sick, you know. So you are worried about brown discharge. Meanwhile, somebody else have a bigger problem than you and the doctor have to deal with them as well. So do not allow these myths to stop you from asking the question, from getting help. I know some of us go online and we put everything in the Google chat and we ask Google and we ask the robots to explain things to us, and that can be very daunting, you know, because personally, every time I go up on WebMD and ask them anything, WebMD always tell me say I have cancer in the app, so I don't trust it. All I'm saying is, if you feel that you have certain symptoms, regardless of how shameful you think the symptom is, even though sometimes it's really in your head, regardless of how bad you feel, still ask about it. Still bring it to your doctor's attention. because they cannot fix a problem that they don't know exists. All right? So debunking period myths frees you up to have real conversation with your healthcare provider and get the help that you need. So stop believing in the myths, man, and get on with your life and live good and be healthy. Sure. Everyday Period is brought to you by HerFlow Foundation. The HerFlow Foundation is dedicated to improving menstrual health and addressing key social issues affecting women and girls in Jamaica. Through advocacy, education, and direct support, HerFlow works to break the stigma surrounding menstruation and empower women to live healthier, more fulfilling lives. HerFlow's flagship project is to end the period poverty in Jamaica. Since inception, HerFlow has donated over 9 million menstrual products to Jamaicans in need. To learn more about HerFlow, please visit embraceherflow.com. All right, so I told you about the period myths that I know about. What about you? What are some period myths that you have heard that I haven't mentioned here? Comment in the chat and tell us about them. Let's talk about them because listen, myths are very far and wide and some of them have some very interesting origins. So I really want to hear about some of the myths that you know that are associated with the period in chat. Time for Ask the Period Lady. Ready up, ready up, ready up. Let me see what the question is today. Today's question comes from Trudy. Trudy says, hi, Period Lady. How can I help my teenage daughter track her period and understand her cycle? Good question, Trudy. All right, listen. Tracking her period is very easy. You can get her app, you download an app, put on her phone, and then track her period that way. And listen, I'm a fan of the technology, but I also like to know what to do just in case the technology fails me. Or I also like to know the analog way so that I can understand how to track it without the technology. And it's very simple. On the first day of your period, mark the date on a calendar. So just a regular calendar. So the first day of your period is Monday the 1st of January. So on Monday the 1st of January, mark it on the calendar. And what you can do is, as the period progresses, mark each day. So that will tell you how long you're menstruating for. And after the last day of your period, you'll be able to see, okay, so I menstruated for 7 days. The cycle after your period cycle is your follicular phase. And in that phase, you're going to feel very different. I don't really want to get into too much details about the phases of the period here, but what I will say to you is that if she understands how to track the first week of her menstrual cycle, that will become very, very helpful because she also needs to know the answer to the question that I told you every doctor asks you. What's the question? After 3, 1, 2, 3, when was your last period? She also needs to know the answer to that question, right? So you can go ahead and show her how to track it on the calendar. Another thing that you can do is when you are having your own period, invite your daughter. Tell her about it. Tell her what you're feeling. Tell her what you use. Tell her some things that you have learned. Because you know how it is as you grow up, you learn different hacks and things. Because for me, for example, one thing that I learned to do when I was just starting out is my favorite thing was a hot ginger beer. Sometimes you have a serious cramp and your belly button feel like it's a drop out. Drink a hot ginger beer. I don't know the science behind it. I just know you feel better. So those are some tips that you can give to her and tell her about other things that work for you. And invite your girlfriends to talk to her as well. This is where you can invoke the community. If your mother's still alive, let grandma tell you about her period experience. Auntie, the different women in your life can talk to her about their own period experiences. And as I have always said, include her father in this conversation because he needs to know what too. Just in case he needs to be there for her so he can help her whenever she needs help and maybe you're not going to be able to do it, he can support her as well. All right? So I hope that helps. Make sure you tune into the episode where we talk about the different cycles of the period. That's going to be its own episode. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Everyday Period. And before I go, I just want to remind you that reproductive health is not just about period and pregnancy. It's about how we take care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially at every stage of our lives. Remember that from puberty to menopause, reproductive health is an integral part of how we show up in the world. So be kind to yourself and each other. Until next time, I am Shelly-Ann. Take care. Walk good. If you want to get in touch after the show, send your questions or comments to embraceherflow@gmail.com. Until next time, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Pure TV. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Facebook at HerFlow Foundation. Our website is embraceherflow.com, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. Thanks to our production team, April and Digital Pro, for the great support, and thank you for tuning in. See you next time. Take care. Walk good.